It's safe to say that over the last several years, Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, the man who stepped down right before things got really bad for the company and then decided to come back to try to save them, even though he was responsible for all of their failures in the first place. As year after year goes by with him back in the CEO seat, and the company doesn't get better, streaming doesn't become more profitable, they're not returning to the good old days theatrically. In fact, they continue to lose money in their entertainment sector while their parks are the only thing that keep them alive. He has lost so much of the reputation that he gained in the 2010s by buying these different properties, by spending money to buy different IPs, because quite frankly, all those IPs end up turning to shit. And when Bob Iger goes out and says things like, Walt Disney and his legacy shouldn't be revered, we really shouldn't be looking back and asking, what would Walt Disney do? Well, that might be a better idea than what you've been doing, Bob Iger. And, combined with today's quarterly earning reports for Disney, you'd have to imagine investors are getting a little impatient as well, because today we saw Disney stock crash by about 10%, and then right at the end rallied up a little bit, so it only fell about 10 points, 8% today, in the aftermath of a quarterly earnings report that was very disappointing, that once again, they haven't made inroads in streaming like they expected. They haven't brought back their theatrical output like they expected, and you'd have to wonder, how long are investors going to believe the bullshit that Bob Iger's selling them? Disney stock crashes 10% as Wall Street loses patience with Iger's streaming bet. Disney just handed investors another jolt, with the stock sliding nearly 10% after a quarter that looked more like a holding pattern than a turning point. Revenue landed at roughly $22.46 billion, essentially flat and shy of what Wall Street wanted to see, while segment operating income dipped 5% as the TV and film units continued to drag. It's the kind of print that could deepen the long-running frustration around a share price stuck between $80 and $125 since early 2022, raising fresh questions about whether Bob Iger's late 2022 return is moving the needle fast enough. And look, the overview on this is Disney didn't perform as well as people expected. Theatrically, they disappointed. They lost money. And I suppose that shouldn't be surprising when you look at massive disappointments like Fantastic Four, and even more recently when you look at box office bombs like Tron Ares. So many failures this year. I mean, every Marvel thing they put out was a flop this year. Every Marvel thing lost money for them, whether it was Captain America, Brave New World, or Thunderbolts, or of course Fantastic Four. And then some of these other big budget movies. Snow White was this year. What a disaster for them in Snow White. Hundreds of millions of dollars, and then more hundreds of millions of dollars with Tron Ares. Now, the only bright spot for Disney would be Avatar coming out later and Zootopia coming out later. And Moana, released before the summer started, was their one shining bright spot this year theatrically so far. And you look at streaming. They thought that streaming was going to be massive for them, and so far it hasn't been. And combined with the losses they continue to see from traditional television, it's not good. The parks are the only thing that is keeping money flowing for Disney, and they're doing that with less people going and charging them more for it. And you know what? That's exactly what we started doing with theaters. And here we are with theaters a few years later, and they have been decimated as fewer and fewer people are willing to go and pay higher and higher prices. That is now apparently their strategy for their theme parks as well. But don't worry, everyone. Bob Iger has some exciting news for investors. And it's all about AI, but not just using AI to, help create different things and help projects become more affordable. No. He wants you to do the work. Disney's Bob Iger, bullish on AI use across entire company, phenomenal opportunities. But the thing that really caught people's eyes was what he said about users generating their own content. This is where we're at with Disney, right? They've done all these remakes, they've done all these rehashes, they've done all these sequels because anything they try to create themselves doesn't work. So now they're saying, why don't we just let the audience create what they want to create? Bob Iger says Disney Plus will soon have AI-generated short-form content from users. This is now what they're going all in on. Maybe because they can't get people to sustain membership or subscription to Disney Plus. They can't get people to stay on that app for long enough, so they have to do something else. Why don't you just take control of an AI program and you can make the content that you want to see? That is where we're at, because they can't create anything that people want. So they need you to do it for them. Disney Plus to allow user-generated content via AI. Disney CEO Bob Iger hinted at productive conversations with unnamed AI companies that would protect IP but add new features to the studio's flagship streaming service. But this is what it always is with Bob Iger. When he came back in 2022, even though he never really left the company, he wanted to be out of the CEO spot when he knew they were going to fucking collapse, when that stock price was going to crater by half, and then he wanted to be the one to save them. Unfortunately, that's not really what we've seen. I mean, when you look back and you look at 2022 and what the stock price was, it's effectively exactly the same. This thing has stayed stagnant at just over $100 plus or minus 10 since that happened. And this is the point. The last couple of years are the point which he said the turning point would be, that investors would finally get their payoff, and it just hasn't fucking happened. And it's understandable when this is the approach, when the person who created this company and turned it into the thing that so many people loved and adored all around the world, and you don't give a fuck about what he did, you don't give a fuck about his legacy, you don't think we should consider what he would have wanted in the same way you didn't consider what George Lucas wanted for Star Wars, in the same way that you bastardize every fucking IP that you've gone out and bought because you can't create anything anymore. Maybe what would Walt do would be some good principles to get back to. But what do you guys think? Let me know about the Disney stock price crashing after another disappointing return. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.